Welcome to the Game Masters Book Club, where great fiction becomes your next great tabletop role-playing experience. We recorded this episode at Total Con Fusion 40. Yes, for 40 years, the con has delighted New Englanders in the depths of February with a chance to play games. From its earliest years at Clark University to its current home at the Royal Plaza Hotel in Marlborough, Massachusetts, Total Con has hosted hundreds of board game tournaments, miniature battles, and yes, tabletop role-playing games. The topic of our discussion was Jim Bernheimer's D-List Supervillain series, a personal favorite of mine, and a great launching pad for our game masters, all regulars to the show. Ian Eller, David Clarkson, and Sean Murphy, who joined me in the conference center early Friday morning at the con to talk about superheroes, supervillains, evil corporations, and how David Clarkson is wrong about, well, listen in and you'll find out. Let's get into the conversation. Everybody, podcast voice on? Very good. All right. Yay, welcome to the Game Masters Book Club. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Here we are. We're doing it. We're doing it. Are we doing it? Are we doing it? I think we're doing it. Okay, welcome to the Game Masters Book Club. We're live here at Total Con with our massive crowd. Everybody has the sound of so many people clapping.
Theater of the mind. Theater of the mind, Eric.
I can hear the crowds now. They're roaring. Oh, my God. I feel like Matt Mercer. We're here today at Total Con with some game masters to talk about Jim Bernheimer's D-List Superhero series, specifically Origins of a D-List Superhero, which is a fantastic superhero, humor-based superhero book, and I think everybody here is going to like it. But first, let's get our GMs introduced. We're going to go from left to right, which makes no sense to anybody who is on the podcast because they can't see this, but it helps us here. So we're going to start with Ian. Ian, introduce yourself and tell us who your favorite superhero. No, actually, given that it's D-list, it's actually not D-list superhero. It's
D-list supervillain.
Tell us who your favorite supervillain is.
Well, my name's Ian Eller. I am a GM and a writer and an occasional player of superhero games, which by that I mean a lot. My favorite D-list supervillain must be Captain Boomerang.
Damn it.
Oh, good choice.
Good choice.
But he's the dumbest and the worst and so the best.
All right, fantastic. Sean?
Yeah, Sean Murphy, DMing for many years, reading comic books for even longer. I don't know, does Blastar count as a D-list supervillain? He's got a lot of power.
He has a D-list name.
He has one thing he does, he blasts. And that's it, but somehow he keeps being this threat that takes on the Avengers and everybody else. So that doesn't work, I'll go with Stiltman.
Stiltman. Yeah.
Okay, my name is Eric Jackson. I'm the host of the podcast, and I'm the reason why all these people got up early at a con, which is fantastic. So thank you so much for getting up. I'm going to go outside of comics and say that Team Rocket, Jesse and James, and Meowth are the best D-list supervillains.
My name is David. What?
Does it count? They are villains.
Yes.
They have some powers. They can capture magical animals. It's a lame power, but anyway.
It's not like Stiltman has a lot of claim to things.
And you took Stiltman, so Kite Man.
Oh, Kite Man. Yes, I know. He's redundant. Yeah.
He is at that point. Yeah.
Just a different universe.
Anyways, my name is David Clarkson. I am often a GM of superhero games. I do love the fun of them and the mix of genres. I also am part of the crew running the Rising Phoenix Convention, so that's my big claim to fame here. And I'm here to show for my event. But I love the genre, and I enjoy gaming with all these good fellas.
Yep, fantastic. Yep.
Oh, D-List.
D-List supervillain.
Is Mr. Mixaplick. He is a...
No.
Well, no, what do you mean no? He's not exactly top tier. He is A tier? No, Luthor.
B tier.
He's maybe...
But he's got, like, Q-like powers.
He does have Q-like powers, but he creates complications for Superman, which is great. I like to see him all tangled up with problems.
Dave, you're wrong.
Thank you, Sean. Your job is done.
Sean's purpose for being here has been
Dave said, Sean, you come and tell me when I'm wrong. Congrats.
Come here. We did it.
Yeah, we're doing this.
We've already done it. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the book before I make you guys start talking about some of the gaming stuff that involves around it. I know this was a last-minute ask, so some of you have maybe not had as much time to prep as others, so let me give you a quick summary. Okay, so the D-List Supervillain series stars Cal Stringle, who starts out as a talented low-level engineer who gets screwed by a superhero corptocracy. Think morally bankrupt Stark Industries, that supports Ultra Weapon, think Iron Man with more guns, and finds himself so beaten down by the corporate lawyers that he can't earn a living legally, so he becomes the D-list supervillain, Mechanical. The world is very comic book coded with aliens, ancient gods, time-traveling dinosaurs, old guys with magical bugles, mutant superpowers, and bizarre science all wrapped into one wacky story. That is basically the best summary I can give of it at that point. After that, I highly recommend reading it just for the sarcasm, but also if you like superhero stories, it's a pretty good take on it. So, does anybody want to make any comments about the book now that I've talked about it?
Well, the inner monologue is the most entertaining part of it. The fact that he's sitting down and going on and on about the troubles of actually being a supervillain, and getting the the behind the scenes.
Yeah, there's definitely I'm going to talk about this when we talk about stuff we're going to steal. There's definitely a real interesting dichotomy between how the supervillains are organized and how the superheroes are organized. It's really kind of interesting. But more importantly is if you were going to try and run a sarcastic supervillain game, low-level supervillain game, what mechanics would you use to support that? What game do you think is probably going to be the best possible game to allow that kind of banter without with only the occasional cosmic influence popping in, and mostly just trying to figure out how you're going to pay rent? Anybody want to start?
Well, I would say that one of the benefits of a game like the hero system and Champions in particular, and when I speak of Champions, I mean the big blue book, like everybody who speaks of Champions should.
Yes, yes.
Or that's 4th edition for those that don't know. But anyway, it's built kind of on the assumption of a more Marvel-like as opposed to DC-like universe, which means everybody has lots and lots of disadvantages and complications and personal rivals and enemies, and that's what you need when you're talking about that kind of story, because the punching other people's stuff only fills a tiny amount of time in that kind of story, right? Like you need people that can't pay their rent. You need Spider-Man not being able to get meds for Aunt May. You need that kind of thing, and that's a very Marvel kind of thing as opposed to a DC kind of thing. And I think Champions, especially 4th edition, sort of built on those assumptions where, I need more points to make my superhero better. The only way to get those is to grab disadvantages and complications, right?
Yeah, they definitely do a lot of emphasis to it in that, as they start developing the Champions line.
Right. And, I mean, Champions is complex, and I don't know anybody who's going to leap out to run it today, but that specific part of that system where it really emphasizes eking as many points as you can out of complications for your character, I think would help in...
Yeah, well, all of his predecessors, random chart like Villains and Vigilantes and Heroes Unlimited, or they all just random and you didn't have to...
You rolled stats.
You just rolled stats and you rolled abilities.
Yeah, the Mechanical Cal Stringle character in the book is an engineer, and he spends a lot of time in the book just talking about how he's going to eke just a little bit more power out of his particular thing. Originally, he was working on the Ultra Weapon power suit, and then he's Mechanical because he's just got gauntlets to begin with, and then he's adding little bits and pieces in through the story. At one point, he eventually adds magical mirrors that he got from a dinosaur god from the past time that allows him to have infinite ammo because it goes to a pocket dimension. He really goes and I think Champions is a great way to if you were going to build a character over time and you're I got my game master gave me 40 points in magic. What am I going to use this for? Okay,
ammo. Why not?
Yeah, sure. It's very clever that way. The character is very competent and very clever at taking the little he has and building it into something else. It's again engineering porn to a certain extent there. So. Yeah. Sean, snarky D-list supervillains.
So I would, and that's possibly just because it's my newfound attraction, is the Marvel multiversity system. They are taking the system seems to have been built to how do we make here's the characters we want to have, how do we reverse engineer them into a role-playing game? It doesn't really work well when you're trying to create a new character using the existing characters in the universe, and it does feel like that part of the attraction of this book is that we're being introduced to a universe that exists around him. And it's well established. And I think that for me, having a well established framework of such as the Marvel Universe would help the story be easier. And it's, you're taking, Jeff Johns, when he did his Flash run, he spent a lot of times on the rogues and the interaction between the rogues. And every now and then you have an issue just with their backstory. Deadly Foes of Spider-Man really went into that. And every time you see the good Sinister Six runs are all about sort of how the villains interact as much as how Spider-Man eventually stops them in the end. Having that group history, I think, would help make this story easier for people to sort of gronk onto.
Yeah, kind of, makes you buy into the reason that they get defeated because, you've been watching them struggle and have their own internal conflicts.
So this guy isn't that much different. So take Scott Lang, who becomes the second Ant-Man. He was an assistant to Tony Stark, ex-con, and he gets promoted and gets Tony's seal of approval, and that's how he gets the Ant-Man uniform. That story could easily have taken a left turn, where drunk Tony fires him. Yeah. And he gets blackmailed from being able to work in the tech industry because Tony Stark gets on his 1%er Slack channel and says, don't hire this guy. That's it. That could easily have been how the story
he could have been, Iron Man's big foe or something like that. Yeah.
Or Iron Man's D-list foe.
True. Yeah. D-list foe. Not his big foe. You're right. That's
not until book 3.
Yeah.
I think it is.
But that would be the fun, is having this guy eventually sort of get back to. And again, one of the things that's nice about this multiverse thing is you can just create different universes. Like, what if Tony doesn't sober up? What if he's a complete a-hole and he fires Scott Lang? And the story then, and for that campaign, is how does Scott Lang eventually get up enough things to get revenge on his drunk boss?
That's an interesting take. I hadn't realized that about that Marvel game. That basically, as opposed to having unlimited possibilities of characters like a generic system, it's just unlimited universes with the same character.
And the reason why it's good is that you can say there was a deviation at the point where you feel like, I don't know all the new continuity the way I do the stuff that was out in the 70s. So my turn is, when I was talking with Ian about this, my turn is, what if the Defenders found Captain America? That changes a whole lot of things from there. And I know all the stuff from the 70s backwards. I can handle that lore without having to know, how many iterations of the Defenders have been? What about this crazy one where they're all just Daredevil? And
all Daredevil? Everybody's Daredevil? Wow.
Well, no, Jessica, there's a new iteration of the Defenders. There's different iterations of the Defenders. I don't know them all. I know the original group pretty well. So that's where I'd make my deviation point.
That'd be pretty cool. I'm on board. Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. That has become the rallying cry of this podcast. We keep coming up with really great game ideas, and everybody's like, "Well, we should get together and do that." And we're like, the true villain, the A-list villain of all gaming, which is scheduling and getting people together.
That's right.
My game for RPG Con is about D-list supervillains. Literally, that is the plot of that game.
Oh, I'm sorry. What system are you using for that?
Marvel.
There you go.
But I'm going to make up characters. Well, I'm not.
You're not going to make up characters. Poor Rob has to learn a new system.
I'm going to have my assistant, Rob Tramarco. Everybody, you may have heard him on other podcasts. He's my personal assistant.
Is he really fantastic? I can't wait for Rob to hear this.
I know. I'm looking forward to Rob suddenly realizing he's an assistant.
Rob, I didn't realize you got promoted from piss boy to
just wait till he comes to you with his abacus and says, "You come up with champions characters."
I'm sorry, I can't. We're not played.
He can do it in his sleep, though, unfortunately for him.
Oh, that part, he's had that part of his brain.
Oh, well, yeah, we used to actually spend Saturdays coming up with champions characters, and that's all we really did.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
How to get the most out of that 60-point multi-power.
That's right. It's amazing. I've certainly seen some
Talking
plenty
about
of these.
engineering porn, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I can do it.
How about a magic sword that can't be used when it's out of your hands? That's not a disadvantage.
No, it is. What if I dropped it?
What if I drop it? What if I fall down? No, sorry. No, if I pick system, the one that I tend to gravitate to is my icon system that I run a lot, and it inherited from examples like Champions before, the idea of we should definitely emphasize, the negative aspects of being a hero, the disadvantages. They even built it in the mechanic. You get extra points, inspiration points that you can spend in game to make things happen by catering to your disadvantage in a scene. It implements one of those mechanics, so it's a lot of fun to see that get done. People have to spend time on that in the game if they want to do stuff.
So it really connects the characters to their...
It does. If the players have no choice, they have to address that. Otherwise, they're just going to have less of an opportunity to do stuff in game, which they should be trying to do as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you guys played Icons?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I have played it once, I think.
Okay.
It's like Mutants and Masterminds meets Fate. Right?
Yes,
and
it is like Mutants and
I'll just
Masterminds.
run Mutants and Masterminds just because I know it better than Icons. But,
Sure.
I
want to do less math.
oh no, not math.
Yeah.
Evil math.
Evil math. I'm not looking to do
That's
so much math.
arithmetic. It's not bad.
I know.
I installed mine, which was Champions, because like I said, I felt very engineering. But my backup is there's a new Invincible, the comic book TTRPG that's coming out that looks like it's going to be pretty cool. It's got a kind of high lethality, which is always great. It's got a neat little dice pool system that allows you to also be able to push your character a little bit. So you can, given the right circumstances, you can mechanically work it out so that like a D-list superhero could figure out how to like take down Thor or some big player. And so it's got the juice to be able to make this situation happen in it as far as the system is concerned. It's built for that. So that was why I was like, oh, well, this looks like it could totally work. Now it's in Kickstarter right now, so it's not like I've played it, but this is just from the free rules that I downloaded, and it looks like, oh, that'd be cool. And I'm a terrible human because I haven't read the Invincible comics yet, and there's also the cartoon that's out too. There's an animated cartoon that's out, and so if you're fans of that, I would definitely recommend these books. And if you're reading these books, I would recommend backing that Kickstarter because this will I think that'll work out.
And Invincible does love its dumbass villains. Like,
Oh,
it
yes.
has some of the dumbest villains.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm curious how they implement the lethality as opposed to being just some, acknowledgement of like, oh, as opposed to falling down, you could just be dead. I'm wondering if they work it into the mechanics in any way, in an interesting way.
I will have to.
Because it's not inherent typically to a comic book game.
Yeah, no, it's very hard. Yeah, when I was looking to see if somebody had made The Boys TTRPG, because I figured if that anything, that also kind of that's just crazy.
Nobody wants to be brought up in a lawsuit.
Point taken. Totally true. Absolutely. Yeah, that's the way it goes. All right. So I know you guys haven't read as much of the book as possible, but if there is stuff that isn't mechanical, if you weren't going to just run this book, but you were going to steal stuff from it, if there were things portable out of it. I had already said that one of the things I liked about it was the financial aspect of heroing and supervillaining. Like, the villains need to steal stuff because they need to fund their organizations. That's how they do it. That's pretty straightforward. But the heroes are either like government agents and they're getting paid there, or they have a whole bunch of like sponsorships and promotional deals. There's a character called Whirlwind Wendy who's in the book, and she's got like she's supposed to be this really nice, squeaky clean Midwestern person. That's her sales personality, but she's actually she's some foul talking kid from the Bronx, and so she's like when she's off camera, it's always like she's just swearing up a storm, and then but she has to keep this image up, and she can't date certain types of other heroes, and because they want to keep her it gets very poppy. And that like almost pop star management at that point for the heroes. And then the villains, of course, have this whole like network of underground people sell things to other people, and there's a whole economy there. And I think putting a villain economy and a hero economy and looking for the places where those connect, I think that would be a great way to build a superhero game.
It would be very interesting, I think, to make things like fame and reputation a really big deal in a superhero game. I don't think I've ever done that, and I can't think of a game off the top of my head that has it built in. But like The Boys, for example, where everybody is a celebrity and you need endorsements and all of that stuff, even if you're a member of the 7 or one of the lower tier teams, making that important in play would be an interesting way to go about talking about progression, right? Because it's a superhero game, you don't necessarily want everybody to get more powerful. What you might want is for them to like get better endorsements, to like get that Nike swoosh on their cape or whatever it takes in order to be the top tier.
It's an interesting problem to solve because it makes me think of, just to go off on a tangent, science fiction games, because you got the big space opera games, and you got the Serenity type games, or Traveler, which is what I grew up on, where you care about, do I have enough money to put gas in the tank?
Yeah, you got to
and
get
you need
places.
to have something like that in the superhero game, that we want this gas, fame in this case, or endorsements, and you need to give them some reason in game to constantly pursue it, other than you're supposed to want.
Yeah, but
to be
not
famous.
spreadsheety stuff. Like if we buy this much of this on this planet, we can sell it for this
No
much
one
on
wants
this
that.
planet.
If you want that,
That's
you can
super
play
fun
Champions.
adventure stuff.
You can use spreadsheets in Champions, though.
Yeah, that's how I make Champions characters. I have a spreadsheet for that. It's the only way I can do it. Otherwise, it's crazy. Yeah, no, I was just thinking, even going less modern and more classic, the whole interaction between J. Jonah Jameson and Spider-Man, like his whole, like there are whole comic book arcs about him trying to repair his reputation after something comes out in the paper, and everybody hates Spider-Man, and then they like Spider-Man, and then they hate Spider-Man, and then they like Spider-Man. So there's a character who's like really models that fame, renown versus villainy kind of thing. And that's really what happens with Mechanical, obviously. He starts off as this, spoilers for the book, he starts off as this low-life character, and then eventually a terrible world-ending plague happens, and since he's inside of his suit, he's the only one who like is immune to the plague, and so he ends up saving everybody, and so he's a hero. I mean, like, was this or not save the world, and the world is where I get my burritos, so I kind of need the world to be around, was sort of why he did it. But like, and so now all of a sudden he's got all these renown points, and he's like, oh, can I get a deal? Can I do a thing? Can I date this chick? Blah, blah, blah. You know, like that kind of a thing. So that's all in there.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
I love the gray morality. You know, I started my role playing on Vampire the Masquerade. So anything with it looks like everybody's doing good, and then once you look beneath the surface, you start seeing the cracks, and you start dealing with the negative implications of that. I always like to implement that in the story.
Right, which is ultimately a game about D-list supervillains, if you think about it.
Yes, absolutely. Vampire the Masquerade. Yes, it is a game about D-list supervillains. I never thought of that, but you're absolutely right.
They are. They have crappy little powers. And,
Trench coats.
Yeah. Yes.
lots of trench coats.
Lots of trench coats. You're right.
Oh, but that's one of the things that the book talks about a lot, is like, who is the hero, right? Like we've got the main character, Ultra Weapon, and he's the guy who saves the planet all the time, but he's really this big old jerk who's doing terrible things on the side. So
when you think about a fantasy D&D game, you have adventurers who have a certain amount of power. They start off weak, and eventually, by going into sacred places and killing people, they get enough money to move ahead and become more and more powerful. So D&D games are essentially starting with D-list supervillains who work their way up, interacting with the system. And Peter David in The Last Avengers story has this line that heroes are reactive, villains are active. And that's just before, spoilers for a 20-year-old story, the villains bomb Avengers headquarters, like blow it all up. And there's sort of that's the thing that comes out in the book, is that like he has to start really working. He doesn't have established contracts he can get or sponsorships or things where the normal ways which one makes money. He's got to go out there and hustle a little bit. He's got to sort of make things for people so that he can sell those, and then he can buy his own things for the things he wants to do and make still more money. So there's something appealing, and I think it comes, you can sort of see like D&D, like, oh, well, we have to get out there and work and interact with the world to make things happen. It's kind of the reverse of what you do in superhero stories, where you're reacting to other people who are more entrepreneur evil about the world.
Yeah, it's an interesting take. I like that.
I had a discussion online with Kevin Crawford, who is the guy that does Worlds Without Number, Ashes Without Number, all those. And I said, I want you to make Capes Without Number next. I want that to be your next, because I'd love it if he did like a superhero game built in that way that he does his games. And he basically said, I can't do a superhero game because superheroes are reactive. There's no forward motion. There's no sandbox for superheroes because they're waiting for a thing to occur. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I think you can build a campaign where that's more proactive. Like we do have comics of people bouncing between universes in search of something. Like every once in a while, there's like a Defenders title or whatever that comes out where they have a quest or a goal, right? But generally, I get the view that superheroes are there to wait for bad things to happen and try and stop those bad things. And the reason why all of these twists on superheroes are always that the superheroes are jerks on the side, I think is built into that idea that if we're watching these people on a more intimate level, you got two choices. You have soap opera stuff, which is superheroes are great at soap opera stuff, right? Or the other thing is they have to kind of be jerks, because what else are you? What other part of the story are you going to tell if they're not just stopping the comet that's going to hit the planet or whatever, right? Your Homelanders are jerks because that makes them interesting beyond just their ability to do whatever superhero bullshit they're doing.
There aren't that many, and I'm really strained by bringing it to Thunderbolts, where they had a public persona of being this, but they were supervillains and they were trying to like make money on the side. Like, so that was sort of the twist on it. But like books out there where the heroes are jerks and we watch them, like it's not Homelander isn't the title of the comic book, it's The Boys. It's those guys going out there that are the heroes of that book, or the stars of the book anyway.
Well, sure, they're the protagonists of that book. But,
fair enough, yeah.
But that cynicism built into making all these copies of our well-known established characters interesting, people tend to lean toward, again, that negative behavior, right? Because it's an immediate hook, right? Superman is really a jerk when he's, not on camera, is a thing that's easy to grab onto. And I think you see it a lot in not your major titles, right?
Right.
Sure, yeah. Because they're not taking down a sacred cow.
Right.
Yeah, are you saying that from either a gaming standpoint or from a fiction standpoint that people find bad behavior more entertaining than somebody going out and
I would be shocked if that were true.
Oh my God.
Yes. I've always said it's far more interesting to see a villain story get built than a hero story, because everybody they generally want the good guy to be good guys, but to see a villain suddenly come around and be rational and have reasons for that's interesting. It's an interesting story.
So you're saying like having a superhero cure cancer is not your idea of a fun book?
That wouldn't be an exciting book for me.
Magneto did nothing wrong.
That turns people into dinosaurs.
I'm reading that. Now I'm reading that book.
So the best supervillains, the ones that last, are ones that you can look at and say, I know why they're doing the thing they're doing.
Yeah.
Like Magneto is an amazing supervillain because he has a backstory of being oppressed, and he's looking and saying, my people are going to go through that same thing again. And the transition for getting him onto the X-Men for a while, even when he's on them, they still don't trust him.
And they shouldn't.
And
because he has a solid agenda that is antithetical to the assimilatory concepts that Xavier is putting out there.
Although what you'll see in the more recent X-Men is that Cyclops, of all people, is sort of like, maybe Magneto's right.
Sure.
Maybe our trying to sort of like all to get together kumbaya moments isn't getting anything but dead mutants. Maybe we should be more aggressive about this. And
It's
sort of
somewhat unbelievable to think that the whole swath of the X-Men, that they don't have plenty of people that do agree or look at his opinion and go, the guy makes sense. And the Xavier guy seems to be pounding his head against the wall.
You don't see it's not bending towards justice on that one. A lot of those timelines are not pro. You don't see a lot of pro mutant stuff. Once again, people behaving badly. All right, so we've sort of drifted into this at this point, because otherwise we'll move right into media. Things that you might want to, if you were going to, what was this? You guys, podcast cannot see the gestures.
That's right, and that's why I did a gesture.
Okay, fantastic.
Thanks for calling me out.
Hey, no problem, man. Trying to boost the bad behavior thing, right? That's what we're doing. All right, so if we're going to talk about media, things that have D-list supervillains in it, along with our D-list supervillain, Mechanical. Dave, let's start with you. What are you going to pick? What's going to be
other media, I go back to Wild Cards. Wild Cards is one of my favorite series on that, and you get to see the whole swath of powers and abilities, all the way from the terrible, unfortunate situations.
That's that little known writer, right? I can't think of his name. What is it?
It's wait a minute.
Martian. No.
Now you're making me forget. It's not. I was going to say Robert Louis Asper, but no, it's not him.
Yeah.
It's what the hell's his name?
George R. R. Martin.
Yeah,
man.
George R.
Martin did the whole thing.
He
No,
created
he
the
was
universe,
part of it.
but they're all
was part of
anthologies
it.
by
You're
other people.
confused because he finished those books when he said it was
There it is.
That's why the
Very
name
fair,
is
very
linked
fair.
to the top of
I-
your head.
yes. There was like so many of
Somebody
them.
who finished a book. Like,
But yes, I did like the fact that they basically showed the swath of superhero and supervillain abilities, and not just the top tier ones. In fact, the top tier ones didn't appear as much.
Anything else? Or jump
No,
over to-
no,
I'll jump over to Sean
that's
then?
my media. I'm sorry.
Fantastic.
I mean, I kind of feel like Thunderbolts is probably the closest one to this, in that you see them starting off, they're all masters of evil disguised as supervillains. Again, spoilers for a 20-plus-year-old storyline. But as they go along, they sort of like, oh, well, I kind of like being a hero. And there's a part of me that at the time was like, oh, that's such a nice thing, and they end up sort of fighting amongst each other over like who they want to be, and Moonstone is trying to sort of play them off each other, and da-da-da-da. I do wish there was one where they were they could just, it feels like that's an instinct of a mainstream comic publisher, to sort of eventually make them a good character. Like, take any prominent female villain, eventually they become the love interest or sort of anti-hero of the thing. Catwoman. Cheetah's now friends with Wonder Woman, or at least they get along okay, and they work together.
Poison Ivy.
Poison Ivy is
Ivy.
now the mayor of Gotham in the comic books as of like this week or something.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so because she becomes an eco-terrorist, and people are like, man, you're speaking up to society, you're pushing back on corporations, we love you.
There's that change in renown thing again.
Exactly. Harley Quinn starts off as, Joker's sidekick, and now she's got her own gig on there and her own TV show.
They just put out a thing. She's on the Bat team now.
I saw that.
They're doing previews of her Bat costume.
Yeah.
She's part of the Bat family now. That's crazy.
Well, when she started doing that in the cartoon that came out on
Yes.
HBO,
Yeah.
she was sort of joining them and was surprised by the amount of time they spent training, because that's not a thing she did. She didn't have the discipline, which is possibly another difference between superheroes. Supervillains don't have necessarily training rooms or danger rooms where they train how to fight supervillains or superheroes. So.
It's a survival of the fittest.
But anyway, I digress. Like, I think that sort of series had the same sort of situations you're talking about in the book here, where there's one character, the techno character, who eventually has to go to jail for killing somebody, like face consequences in a way that he didn't have to if he hadn't sort of taken on this hero gig and started liking people. So.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of comic book series that, like for example, Jeff Johns wrote a Rogues miniseries, but I think the one that this is not good. It's not, but it fits the mold of like, oh look, a bunch of D-listers, some of them heroes, most of them villains, coming together and doing an interesting thing, is Legends of Tomorrow from the CW, from the Arrowverse, right?
yeah.
Like a bunch of morons all packed onto a time traveling spaceship and like having adventures against my favorite villain of all time is 100% is Vandal Savage, and the fact that Vandal Savage was the villain for one of those seasons, I was like, I'm in.
You do know he's the current commissioner in Gotham City,
Is
right?
he?
Vandal Savage is? Really? Wow, what the hell's going on there?
They're all going straight.
No, he's not straight. He's corrupt. Like, he's planting evidence about Batman having killed people as the commissioner. Don't worry, he's still evil.
The first story I ever wrote and sent to DC Comics when I was a youngin' and I really wanted to write comic books was a Vandal Savage story that opens with him. Aliens arrived 10,000 years ago, and Vandal Savage leads the other Neanderthals to beat them to death and kill them, and he buries it, and then he gets it 10,000 years later in the modern DCU. And I was so excited. I sent it off, and they sent back a letter that said, "Thank you for your submission. We don't take unsolicited submissions." It crushed me.
Poor
my
baby
15-year-old Ian went, "Oh no, what do I do?"
But you didn't let it stop you.
That's right. I still never made it.
Yes, I've still never done it. I'm going to mention one of my favorites is the Velveteen Versus series by Shauna McGuire. This is about superheroes, though for a while she ends up being a supervillain. It is very much, Shauna McGuire said that it is basically, what if the Disney Corporation controlled superheroes? and it is all about this sort of corporatization of the heroes, and it has a lot of this like fame, and it does the soap opera thing, but they plan it out. It's very reality TV, and the story is about the character Velveteen who tries to leave, and much like Cal, she basically gets blacklisted. Like, if you're not a hero, you must be a villain, and therefore, like, she has to go in hiding, and she ends up dealing with a lot of supervillains as well as superheroes, and it's a great series. And Shauna McGuire's a great writer. Just a quick note, in case Shauna McGuire ever listens to this, Shauna, you are my #1 pick for this show. If I can ever get you on this show, I absolutely want it. But on top of that, the book by Natalie Zena Walschatz, Hench, was a great one. I really liked that. It was a great story about a hench person for a supervillain, and it talks a lot about what happens to the folks who work for the supervillains. She's like the second in command. She's the person who does all the organizing while the big guy rants and raves about his rivalry with the main superhero guy, and she just pulls her hair out all the time because he just like, I must destroy this dude, and she's like, but we're making so much money if you just don't pick fights with him. Like we can, and her superpower is like spreadsheets. She's amazing. So I really like Hench.
That's the old adage of why aren't these supervillains just marketing their inventions? And
well, and it's in the Austin Powers series too. Like, oh, we're doing quite well in all these areas right here. What? No, we need to be doing laser beams or whatever.
What is this? And you already mentioned my third choice, which was the Super Foes of Spider-Man, which is a great comic book series of all the D-list supervillains. So,
What do you think is the driving force behind that pretty common want to look at superheroes as if they were run by Disney, right, or whatever? Like even on The Boys, the TV show version of that story, like it is very much about that corporatization and whatever. And you even see it in stuff like every time Booster Gold gets a miniseries and they try and make him a thing again, right? Like make Booster Gold happen, which they can never quite do, but that is built deeply into that, right? What is it? Because in the real world, are the closest thing we have are like sports stars? Is that why we do that to superheroes?
I think everybody I do think right now in our culture, we have this idea that famous people are part of corporations and have money. This isn't the same case as it was like in the 1930s and 40s when like Albert Einstein was literally a pop star. Like, he could not go places. He was mobbed. People were like, he's the smartest man in the world and we want to pay attention to him because he's a scientist and science is cool. Like, there was a period of time where the world was like that, and it's not now. But yeah, now everything is like a lot of the power is concentrated in corporates, and so it makes sense to take your most powerful people and attach them to the corporate thing. Or we could say that maybe the people who own the distribution of comics, the big powerful corporations like Disney and other people, are purposely attaching themselves to these superhero characters to burnish their brand, right? Like, it's making them look better. Like Disney's great because they host Marvel. So even if they're an evil corporation on the side, but they have Marvel, they must be good, right? Does that make sense?
that gets Kathy to pay the subscription.
Yeah. And let's be honest, if anybody was not going to pay the subscription.
Yes, she'd stand against it, but she's like, but they have Star Wars. I'm like, but they are Disney stars.
Yes.
Yeah, she's like,
they have Star Wars. It's so hard. I
know.
don't know what to do. Those are my recommendations.
We have a problem. Superheroes are not gray generally, as they've been presented. There's good gray.
Oh, gray.
There's
yes.
good and there's evil.
Yeah.
And I think we're moving into a society right now where it's a lot harder to tell who the good guys are. Eric was suggesting that there's almost a sort of like, by making them squishy gray by like these corporations or whatever, then rebelling against them becomes the hero. And I think we're in a time of society where people are looking at our structures that we have and are wondering, is that the best we can do? And superheroes have always been sort of put out as the best we can do. So I feel like some of that tearing down, and it's interesting, the Hench book, there's like 3 or 4 other books out there where like people are, working for supervillains and working their way up to supervillains, and any books are out there. There's 3 or 4 different series out there. It's an interesting phenomenon where people are like, hey, what if they've just got bad press? It's not, what if that's what's going on here? Or they were outcast not because they're wrong, but because society didn't like the message they were giving. It's my best guess is that we're not interested right now in good and evil, or at least we don't want to believe that we're not clear on what is it is. And so exploring the space of what that means is more interesting to us.
I wonder if you could track that as a cycle. Like, remember, the Bronze Age of comics happened because everybody was also disinterested in black and white explanations for stuff, right? It was at the end of Vietnam and
I was going to say, that's Nixon, Vietnam, all that stuff. Yeah.
So look at the 80s, Reagan era. That's when you have The Watchmen, Dark Knight Returns, Vertigo sort of rises up. Like, I think we go through these cycles of, hey, let's explore the other space. Let's be a little bit dark about these things in comic book and comic book related stories. And it depends on what kind of society and, frankly, of the people that are creating them too. Like, I'm not writing comic books right now. It's a 22-year-old who's trying to find housing and trying to make this all work together and figure these things out. His experiences and the things that he wants to sort of explore, or she, sorry for the error there, or they want to explore is different than what I want to explore necessarily. But I enjoy reading it, but it's not as personal for me.
I agree with this cycle because we've certainly heard that told more than once that we keep going through that cycle of we want to worship our heroes and now we want to tear them down. Now we want to worship them again. Where do you think I always found the phenomena of the breakout heroes in the early 2000s, heroes being the most best example of it. There's a lot of different media at that time that said, what if normal people had powers? How would they struggle with it? How does that factor into that? Is that
Well, I don't actually think
turn?
That's not what was happening with that show. What was happening with that show is they wanted to do a superhero show and they did not want to put people in
You
costumes
think they're just afraid of it?
because they looked stupid. But our first story, first story we have written down is basically a superhero story, right?
Yeah.
Like it is straight up like he wrestles gods and stuff. Like we have always done this where we create in our media the pinnacle of humankind, whatever that means at a given moment, right? It's just that. Like during that era, people wanted that. They just were afraid to put costumes on it. Like think about for that first X-Men movie, right? It was so hard to get them in black leather, by itself, right? Like just that was a huge lift, right?
Sure.
Blade came out. Blade is a straight up superhero story, but we're just going to put that guy in a trench coat
costume,
and with a katana because that's the closest thing to a cape we can possibly do.
Well, that's what he wears in this comic book too, so that helped.
Well, were the only books for that sort of story? Was it just a reaction to the popularity of the TV show? Weren't there other books that tapped into that idea?
Which
ordinary people
gaining powers. The Wild Cards books. That's where I first encountered it. Suddenly, a normal person got a mutation virus and suddenly manifested.
Well, I mean, back to Captain America, Steve Rogers was a normal kid who got powers.
I'm just wondering where that fits in. It was interesting.
So it's a common theme, though, where you find. Go hero's journey, where you find out you're a special person.
Yeah.
Like, it turns out my father was
a Jedi too,
or a Jedi too, or whatever it is. Like you're Harry Potter, you're living in a closet, and suddenly, like someone shows up and says, "You're a very powerful
special.
wizard.
You have power.
You're very special," and and that sort of theme of I think. If you're adolescents in general, sort of like the idea that, like, in the middle of all this, I'm really special, even though I'm surrounded by all this drudgery.
True, and the X-Men, they start off like, I'm a teenager, I just manifested power. Now Charles Xavier shows up with his buddies and tells me how great I am, but they gloss over the getting used to it. They go off to the special school with all the other people that have powers, and then that's their struggle, as opposed to now go to regular high school and suddenly I'm held in detention, but I can teleport home. What am I going to do? Should I teleport home or should I pretend I don't have powers? Those are the things that made those stories stand out differently.
Yeah, and they go back and forth in sort of how much they do the training for them. Like Grant Morrison, when he took over the X-Men, made the school even larger and the more sort of interpersonal interaction between students trying to figure out what their powers was, and created some of the same sort of weird high school dynamics you'd see any high school drama, but now they have superpowers.
The X-Men, the X-Men TV show.
Oh, the X-Men, the 97,
the 97 one. That was.
True. They did delve into that.
That was very much along that. How do I deal with having superpowers, kind of a thing. I think just to go back to what we were talking about before, I think part of the reason why we do the corporate thing is because I think corporations are something that we all can agree on. think most people can agree that we're not part of like the 1%. And so that's something other from us, as opposed to when you want to define what good is. I think there's a very strong divide, and there's a number of different opinions on what good is. But we can all agree that maybe corporate, if somebody has all the money and they're not helping me, then they must be bad. And
like if you get paid to do a thing, that means you don't really mean it, right? Like a little bit of like you're not really a hero if you have to get paid to be a hero, right? Which is unfair because firefighters and cops have salaries, right?
Yeah.
Like
they definitely did. That was in the latest Superman movie. They were like picking on the Green Lantern and the
Justice Gang.
The Justice Gang, yes, the Justice Gang who was funded by blah blah blah, and somehow that made them feel a little less than Soups, because Soup is just out there doing his thing because he's trying to do his best, and he isn't. And yet he's still holding down a job.
Yeah, like he needs to worry about where all the meals are coming from.
Yeah.
And that's explored in the first time that Spider-Man meets Fantastic Four, where he's like, hey, I could join your group. And they're like, oh, we don't pay people. Man, maybe we can come up with stipend or whatever, but we just work off of all the patents that Reed has. You don't have a salary. And he's like, never mind.
How's Aunt May going to get ramen?
I guess we did a lot of damage to your building for no apparent reason. Perhaps a letter would have sufficed to sort of understand your hiring policy and corporate structure. But, so yes, the whole idea of like the Avengers have a mansion.
That was Luke Cage's whole bit, right? Like that, like when that book started, it was about like he had to make his rent, man.
True. I like the Jennifer Jones series because they delved into that. She was just going about her life, and this superhero stuff was really getting in the way. Jessica. Did I say Jennifer?
You said Jennifer.
Yeah, I meant Jessica Jones.
You were wrong, Dave.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you.
What a perfect place! What a perfect place to go to promote promotion. Okay, great. So now that we've started and ended with Dave being wrong, why don't we talk about things that are right about what's happening with everybody? And actually, we'll start with Dave. Dave, sure. I know you've got a shill for the con. So
yes, I am legally required to shill for the con. Rising Phoenix Convention taking place this April, 23rd to the 26th. Down in Milford, Massachusetts. We welcome everyone, and we are accepting game signups right now, and very soon we'll be opening up registration for games. So please get online, risingphoenix.com. Please sign up.
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Excellent. We'll all be there.
We'll all be there. It's fantastic. Sean?
No, I'm just going to endorse Rising Phoenix.
All right, fantastic. Ian?
So I have had in recent weeks a few wake-up calls about things to worry about as far as the future is concerned. My ticker isn't working as great as it should. So this summer I'm going to start something that's been on my bucket list for a long time. I'm going to finally create my own RPG instead of just doing freelance for other people's RPGs. And I expect to do my first public play of it at Carnage next year.
Nice.
That's
fantastic.
my goal. That's
we will
get all the kinks out before you come to Rising Phoenix.
Well, no, lots of kinks.
Lots of kinks. I love your game with kinks.
I was going to say, that's not my impression of.
It wouldn't be an Iron Ella production without some kinks in it.
That's at least two.
I can't wait till the first time we just randomly put Ian's game into one of these shows. And obviously, we are going to be recording here. We have Michael St. Air, who's been doing our recording here for the whole time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. He and I will both be at Rising Phoenix, where we will be having not one, not two, not three, but 4 podcast recordings with various authors. Very exciting stuff. Elizabeth Bear, Scott Lynch. I cannot think of Miss Monocle's first name. Trisha Woldridge.
Joaquin, something like that.
And Trisha Woldridge. All of those, all the four great authors who are all going to have a chance to talk to, and also get some game masters to talk about how we can turn their books into more fabulous games.
Absolutely.
Which is the plan. All right. Anything else before we close, folks?
The audience are the real heroes.
They are. Thank you, audience.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, audience. Yay, you guys are fantastic.
And that was the Game Masters Book Club, coming to you from TotalCon 40. Thanks again to Sean, Dave, and Ian for a great discussion. Thanks to the staff of the con, especially their fearless leader, Steve Patino, and Chris Spinney, who helped us with technical support and good humor. Speaking of technical support, this recording comes as the result of Michael St. Air and his trusted sidekick, Forrest Edwards, who helped set up, manage, and expertly delivered the recording. Michael will be handling our future shows at Rising Phoenix Con in April, and if you have a project you need recorded, like a live play podcast, talk about dragons, or just a podcast like this one where you talk about great books, be sure to contact Michael at staire.com. That's STAYRE.com. Join us next episode when we journey back to the future in Sterling E. Laner's 1974 post-apocalyptic sci-fi novel, Hero's Journey. David Clarkson, Scott Legault, and Chris Granis will be...
You can find a complete transcript of today's discussion, as well as links to all of our podcasts at k-squareproductions.com/GMBC. You can learn about upcoming episodes on our social media on Blue Sky at gmbookclub.bluesky.social, on Facebook at Game Masters Book Club, on Mastodon at Game Masters Book Club, and on Instagram at Game Masters Book Club. If you've enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe, and comment on our episodes in your chosen podcasting space, and be sure to share those episodes with your gaming community. You've been listening to the Game Masters Book Club, brought to you by me, Eric Jackson, and K-Square Productions. Continued praise and thanks to John Corbett for the podcast artwork and Otis Galloway for our music. Later, gamers, and to paraphrase the great Terry Pratchett, always try to be the place where the falling angel meets the rising ape.